Okay, let's dive right into this. Can a haunted bungalow actually bring someone happiness? I mean, it feels completely counterintuitive, right? We're all basically conditioned to believe that haunted spaces bring nothing but misery. But this specific question sets up the very core of our central mystery today. We're looking at the incredibly bizarre journey of a couple named Rajni and Mukul. And their story forces us to ask whether a place steeped in absolute tragedy can somehow become the catalyst for the ultimate blessing. So let's start with Act 1, New Beginning, and Lonavala. 5 years. For 5 incredibly agonizing years, Rajni and Mukul had been battling unexplained infertility. And you know what makes this so intensely frustrating? Literally all their medical reports were completely normal. Have you ever felt the sheer exhaustion of hitting a brick wall, facing a problem with absolutely no logical cause? Well, that heavy mental toll can manifest physically. So, to escape it, Rajni makes this monumental decision regarding the next 5 years of her life. She decides to completely sacrifice her career. She resigns from her job just to eliminate any external stress. Meanwhile, Mukul arranges a hybrid work schedule. The plan here is a total reset. They're going to relocate to the quiet, scenic hill station of Lonavala in a desperate bid to find some peace and hopefully finally start the family they so deeply desire. Moving on to Act 2, the mysterious bungalow. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast in perception. When they arrive in Lonavala, they're initially just looking for a small flat, right? But Rajni feels this immediate, unexplainable, almost magnetic attraction to a sprawling bungalow with a central courtyard and a massive peepal tree. Despite her husband being a bit worried about the cost, she feels an eerie sense of familiarity. It's almost as if the house itself is calling out to her. She sees it as her ultimate dream home. But there's a huge catch. The local community views this exact same property as an abandoned, haunted nightmare. Literally, no one wants to step foot in it. Because of this terrifying local reputation, the owner, a man named Mr. Shaw, is getting desperate. So he offers this massive bungalow to the couple at a remarkably low rent, just to finally have the place occupied. Which brings us to scary dreams and prayers. You know, the locals were looking at Rajni and Mukul like they were the eighth wonder of the world for actually moving in there. And honestly, their fears were totally justified. Rajni's peaceful dream home quickly turns into an absolute psychological battleground. Night after night, she starts hearing this chilling plea in her dreams. "Mom, save me, please. Save me." It's coming from the spirit of a violently injured young boy. She sees him covered in wounds, just begging for release. But it doesn't stop when she wakes up. The supernatural presence actually bleeds into her waking life. She constantly feels this dark, looming shadow following her around, the seemingly empty corridors. So that stress they moved to Lonavala to escape? Yeah, it's now been replaced by pure terror. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Rajni turns to her mother-in-law, who suggests a spiritual intervention. Let's trace how this actually plays out. For 7 consecutive days, Rajni rigorously reads the Bhagavad Gita. Then, on the 7th day, she concludes the ritual by pouring sacred water right at the base of that massive peepal tree in the courtyard. And then, a literal miracle happens. By week 4, after 5 long years of unexplained infertility, a doctor confirms Rajni is pregnant. But even more bizarrely, that injured ghost boy in her dreams suddenly stops begging. It's like a switch has been flipped. He now just watches her with this profound, calm demeanor. All right, buckle up, because here is Act 3, the storm and bad omen. So, months pass, Rajni's parents move into the bungalow to help, and the highly anticipated night of her delivery is finally here. But nature decides to unleash absolute chaos. Everything hits the fan simultaneously, and with terrifying intensity. Just as Rajni is struck with severe labor pains, a massive, freezing storm hits Lonavala. While Mukul is desperately trying to carry his agonizing wife to the car through the driving rain, a deafening crack echoes through the property. That massive peepal tree in the courtyard, the very site of Rajni's ritual, violently crashes to the ground. For Mukul's mother, watching all this unfold, the falling of that sacred tree is seen as a horrifying, catastrophic omen for the whole family. And the nightmare doesn't stop at the house. At the hospital, the family hits this agonizing standstill. Doctors pull a frantic Mukul aside and tell him a normal delivery is failing, but a C-section is super risky because the baby's heart rate is really weak. They just have to wait. Think about that universal feeling of complete helplessness when a loved one is in the hospital. The desperate need to do something, anything, is completely overwhelming. Unable to just sit in that waiting room while his wife suffers, a panicked Mukul decides to briefly run back to the bungalow. He channels all that nervous energy into hiring a crew of laborers to chop up and clear the massive roots of the fallen tree that's blocking his home, leading us to the skeleton and terrifying truth. So Mukul is just trying to clear out this debris, right? But as his laborers dig deep under the unearthed roots of the fallen tree, they hit something that is definitely not wood. It's a gruesome discovery, a human skeleton. And this brilliantly illustrates a mind-bending coincidence, because at that exact simultaneous moment, pushing past all medical odds back at the hospital, Rajni successfully delivers a healthy baby boy. The absolute terror of realizing his family has been living on top of a secret grave pushes Mukul to the absolute brink. But guys, the mystery does not end there. While Mukul is completely reeling at the hospital, Mr. Shaw, the owner who rented them the house, suddenly shows up. And he's totally in a trance. It's like he's being compelled by some unseen supernatural force. Right there, in the hospital, in front of Mukul and the police, Mr. Shaw confesses. He admits that 25 years ago, he murdered his own nephew, buried him under that peepal tree, and stole the bungalow.
And that sets up our conclusion, the final mystery of the past.
To atone for his horrific crimes, Mr. Shaw legally transfers the entire ownership of the massive bungalow to Rajni. His only request? That her newborn son eventually perform the murdered victim's final sacred rites, finally allowing the trapped spirit of the boy, the very one from Rajni's dreams, to find peace. Now, you'd think finding a skeleton in your front yard would make you pack your bags instantly, right? But jump forward 5 years later, Rajni flat out refuses to ever leave the house. She feels this unbreakable, deeply rooted bond to the property that she can't quite articulate. But then, during a totally routine cleaning of the bungalow's dusty storeroom, they stumble upon the final piece of the puzzle that literally reframes the entire story. Deep in that storeroom, they find a 25-year-old photograph. It's a picture of Rajni's mother holding a baby Rajni, hidden inside this very house. So why was it there? It implies this massive, karmic past life connection. It suggests that Rajni didn't just randomly stumble upon this house. She was actually fated to return to it. She was destined to uncover the dark secret, free the trapped spirit, and, in return, be blessed with the child she always wanted. Have you ever felt an invisible thread pulling you toward a place or a person? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll see you next time.